In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
One of the things we also do in the year-end correspondence roundtable is dig into what was undercovered or underreported.
Joe Biden's obvious cognitive decline.
I don't need to fight.
Wow. That became undeniable in the televised debate.
At the presidential debate with Donald Trump.
Unquestioned.
I don't need to be forgiven.
Congratulations, butthead.
His advisors managed his limitations for 4 years, and yet he insisted that he could still run for president. We should have much more forcefully questioned whether he was fit for office for another 4 years.
You suck, fuck you.
You are fake news.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Very fake news.
You talk like a fag and your shit's all retarded.
That's disgusting.
Shut up, faggot.
Fed.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now.
Skag free whoever he is.
Dude, Matt straight up sucks.
How dare you?
In 5, 4, 3.
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live for Sunday, January 5th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. And of course, Happy New Year. Glad to be back. It's been a full 2 weeks off the air now, and it's rare that I take a break that long, but of course it was Christmas and New Year's. And then unfortunately, my entire family and we all passed away from whatever terrible sickness infected our whole house. Thankfully, we've all reanimated. We're all recovering. But man, that was the sickest I've been. I think we've been in years. I still am somewhat. You probably hear it in the voice. It was the kind of sick that the COVID propaganda warned about. Like if this was COVID, then I kind of would have got it. But of course, this was something, I don't know, or maybe it was new super COVID straight out of Wuhan. I have no idea what it was. But it was the kind of sick that makes you get existential. At one point, I was sitting in my lounge chair in the living room, becoming one with that lounge chair, just a big blob of worthlessness. And I said to my wife, I imagine this is what it feels like to die. Just totally knocked out, totally outside of yourself, unable to do anything that requires any effort. And as many of you in the audience, I'm sure know, you reach new levels of sickness, I suppose, when your whole family is sick and your family includes a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Now, we haven't had that whole house sickness. Thankfully, we're very fortunate for that. But man, difficulty level escalated when your whole family's sick and you got to take care of those toddlers. You could barely take care of yourself, but you got to take care of them too. So it's been a week or two of new challenges for the household, but I'm glad to be here. The show must go on, of course, except for last week when I was actually dead. The saying is the show goes on unless I'm dead. I actually passed away last week. That's why I wasn't here on Sunday. But how much am I committed to being here for this week, for the new year? Well, I'm missing the Vikings-Lions game right now, but that's okay. I don't need that kind of disappointment in my life. I saw the Lions just score a touchdown before I went live, so I don't need that kind of negativity. So we'll do the show. Hey, at the bottom of the hour, my friend Sean Fitzgerald, actual justice warrior, he will join to discuss the ongoing wave of subway violence in New York City, and Kathy Hochul, her attempt to propagandize otherwise. We'll get to that in about a half hour. Before and after, of course, I'll get to all the week's news, including the Las Vegas Trump Hotel car bomb, the New Orleans ISIS-inspired, apparently, truck attack on Bourbon Street at the New Year's party in the early morning hours of New Year's Day. Mike Johnson hangs on to the speaker's gavel by the narrowest possible margin. And plus, later in the show, I'll talk Sam Hyde's challenge to Elon Musk on immigration. And of course, there will be Hoax Hate to Close. I'll catch up with your Superchats as well. $10 and up on the Sunday show because I am a no-good, a low-down money grabber my sources say our friend Knuckle Hunky Buck will once again join to read Super Chat as well. Speaking of, hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show. You can do that for as little as $1 a month on my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay. Listener support is what keeps the operation running, and of course it is hugely appreciated. There are perks available for your support as well. mattchristiansenmedia.com/support, linked in the description. And we got to say hi to our featured listener-owned business of the evening as well, and that is our friends at Hope Innovations. Have you ever wanted to grow your own garden, but you didn't feel like you had the space? With food prices rising and chemicals being added to our food every day, you might consider adding a hydroponic garden system to your home. Grow clean and fresh produce all year round with the Eden Tower from Hope Innovations. When it comes to growing your own food, invest in the best system out there and discover the joy of regularly having freshly harvested salads, homegrown herbs, tomatoes, peppers, and more with your very own hydroponic system engineered to be elegant and practical. The Eden Tower stands above the competition with its patented cup system that allows you to drop a seed and go. You do not need a green thumb to easily grow delicious and nutritious food. Get $200 off an Eden Tower hydroponics kit from Hope Innovations through a listener-exclusive link available only on my website. Head on over to mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Find the Hope Innovations link and click it for $200 off an Eden Tower hydroponics kit. Get started growing your own food easily and simply today. You can find everything you need from our friends at Hope Innovations, plus other great offers from the rest of our friendly listener-owned businesses like Hero Soap Company, Western Razor Company, Kineo Mountain Woodsmithing, and more. mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals, deals by listeners, for listeners. And speaking of our friends over at Hero Soap Company, don't forget about my signature soaps, Timberline and Old West. Or you can get any of Hero Soap's other fine offerings, including, yes, bar soap, body wash, shampoo, conditioner, cologne, and more. Promo code MC Listener for 10% off everything from our friends at Hero Soap Company. A little bit of housekeeping before we move into the news. On Friday, my Bible study is coming back. Bible study has been on break through most of December, but it does return Friday. As a reminder, Bible study is open to public participation, or you can listen to it passively through podcast platforms. We are still working our way through Acts, and we have a good core of participants each and every week. My Bible study leader, Robert, does a lecture on the week's text, and then we discuss and ask questions to close. My Bible study's at 9 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, again, returning this Friday. If you'd like information on how to participate live, that is, or if you just like to listen through a podcast platform on demand, see the Bible study page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/Bible-study, or just find it linked on my homepage, mattchristiansenmedia.com. Well, as discussed before Christmas, Justin Trudeau is still barely clinging to power in Canada, though it's very likely that that ends later this month. But he's still there for now. And it's not just that Trudeau is suffering the political humiliation of his government coalition falling apart and likely his ousting from the office of the prime ministership, if that's what you call it. It's that everyday Canadians are now humiliating him for sport, apparently. There was that national hero kid that we talked about a few weeks ago called Trudeau an F-slur when he encountered him at a running event.
Look at this fat.
Well, I guess it happened again. Because Trudeau went skiing over Christmas. He went to Red Mountain Resort in British Columbia. And a woman whose identity I have not seen confirmed, she confronted Trudeau and informed him that his presence is not appreciated.
Mr. Prime Minister. Yeah. Please get the fuck out of BC.
Have a wonderful day, man.
Yeah, you suck.
Got him! Got him!
Now that may sound fairly tame and innocent. All she said was, "You suck." That is actually the most red-hot Canadian rage ever recorded. No Canadian has ever been more angry and hostile in the history of Canada than that woman in that moment. That's how bad it was. That is the new Canadian rage record. as one response on X noted. That actually was pretty disrespectful when you think about it. Pretty rude, actually. Trudeau doesn't just need to leave British Columbia. He actually needs to leave the entire country. So, Canadians, please remember to be considerate when publicly mocking your prime minister, at least prime minister for now. The only downside to Trudeau's coming departure will, of course, be the end of this public humiliation tour, but it's great viewing for the moment.
Look at this faggot.
Now, Justin Trudeau maybe is not even the most embarrassed politician of the new year, because, of course, we have our own offerings here in the United States. Namely, Kamala Harris presiding over the swearing in of the new Senate on Friday, and she was leading or attempting to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, but she got it wrong. She skipped the part about the flag, the flag to which she is pledging allegiance.
Join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to...
Whoops, it is not. I pledge allegiance to the United States. In fairness to Kamala Harris, of course, she did grow up in a middle-class neighborhood where people were actually most proud of their lawns, not necessarily the flags. Kamala Harris will be unburdened by correct recitals of the Pledge of Allegiance. And in just a few weeks, we will be unburdened by what has been of her tenure as Vice President of the United States. Now, as I'll get to later in the show, there was a brief fight for the speakership over in the House. Wasn't nearly as dramatic as last time, and then the eventual ousting of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Incumbent Republican Mike Johnson won. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries did not. When the new Congress was sworn in on Friday, though, in a fiery speech of defiance, Jeffries said that he and Democrats will, quote, fart hard for voting rights.
The American dream possible. We will fight hard for the freedom to vote.
And that was actually the edited version right there. If you listen closely to the live recording, you can hear that Jeffries was quite serious about putting his words into action.
The American dream possible. We will fight hard.
That's disgusting.
California Congressman Eric Swalwell appreciated the message and confirmed that he's not only ready to fart hard for Democrat Party priorities, he's been farting hard for the cause for years. There's plenty of evidence out there. Now, in something of a surprising move, the judge in the Trump hush money case in New York, Juan Merchan, he announced on Friday that he's going to proceed with the sentencing in the case this coming Friday, January 10th. Now, recall Donald Trump was convicted on all 34 felony counts of God knows what that nobody can even explain in May. And the sentencing and really the entire case has been in limbo since after the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling raised a bunch of questions about the legitimacy of that trial and that conviction. And the judge had delayed the sentencing indefinitely until now. Now it's Friday. Remember that Trump is theoretically or was theoretically eligible for jail time in this case. That seems unlikely if he was any normal defendant. But of course, do you really go this far without trying to put Trump in jail? Well, now the judge is at least signaling he won't do that. If not saying outright he won't do that, but the judge said in part, it seems proper at this juncture to make known the court's inclination to not impose any sentence of incarceration, a sentence authorized by the conviction, but one the people concede they no longer view as a practicable recommendation. Merchan said a sentence of unconditional discharge appears to be the best solution. So Trump wanted the case dismissed outright. That didn't happen. Now Merchan is saying, well, how about I just give you a sentence of basically nothing? And then the conviction stands, but you can still go about your business of being president. Sounds like that's what's about to happen. Now, of course, Trump's not just going to accept that. He's still going to appeal the conviction, even if there's no meaningful punishment for it, on the grounds that some of the evidence used And indeed, some of the testimony was from witnesses who were a part of his administration. Some of the evidence used was part of his official business as president of the United States, and therefore inadmissible per the Supreme Court's immunity ruling earlier in the year. So come Friday, it sounds like there's not going to be a meaningful sentence in this case, but Trump is still going to have a whole bunch of appealing to happen going forward, and we'll see where it goes from there. And lastly, before I get into the Las Vegas stuff, there's still a couple weeks left of Joe Biden and company mocking the country, don't forget. And yesterday, the mockery was giving a Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, of course, to, among others, Hillary Clinton and George Soros, the lady responsible for burning down various parts of the world and the guy responsible for burning down portions of this country through his work getting progressive reform prosecutors into office. Now, my sources say that George Soros himself was not actually present at this award ceremony, and his son Alex accepted on George's behalf, since George is actually even older than Joe Biden, a feat previously thought impossible, but George Soros has indeed done it. Hillary Clinton was there, though, and things got very awkward when, after receiving the medal, she actually revealed her true form. That clip courtesy of Dr. Clown PhD on X. And if you ask me, Dr. Clown PhD is a far more deserving recipient for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I would trust Dr. Clown PhD over the likes of Dr. Fauci for sure. But let's get into the Las Vegas stuff. And I might even have to break this up because I got so much to say about it, and I don't think I'll have enough time before Sean joins in a little bit here. But let's see how far I get. Now, of course, New Year's Day saw two high-profile car attacks. First, the deadly, apparently ISIS-inspired attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans in the late night, early morning hours of New Year's Day. And then later in the morning, this active-duty Green Beret takes a Tesla Cybertruck to the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas and blows it up, that being the truck, at the lobby door. And this supposedly after killing himself by gunshot, but there's video evidence that makes that claim very seriously questionable. And even though the Las Vegas event was not the deadlier event, I'm going to start with that Trump Hotel event and get to New Orleans later in the show, because I know everything is tinfoil bait these days. The only actual conspiracy theory is the official version of events. This one is a very strange one. Almost impossible to believe at face value, but as far as the event is characterized at face value, this is what supposedly happened. The driver of this Tesla Cybertruck and the presumed detonator of this explosion, his name is Matthew Livelsberger, sometimes called Matt Berg for short. And he was an active duty Green Beret, as in an Army Special Forces soldier, still in the Army. He was on approved leave at the time from the Army. Apparently he was in Germany or somewhere overseas, but he's on approved leave. He comes back. He has a family in Colorado. That's where his wife and child live. He rents a Cybertruck in Denver. At some point, he loads this Cybertruck with fireworks and gas. But that's in Las Vegas. Before he gets to Las Vegas, between Denver and Las Vegas on this drive he takes, he bought two guns in Monument, Colorado, one handgun and one rifle. And the handgun, I haven't seen a description of the rifle, but the handgun was apparently a .50 caliber Desert Eagle. And this is supposedly the one with which he shot himself. As far as the timeline for how this happened, 7:30 a.m. Wednesday. This is as he gets to Las Vegas. There's a couple days of driving around this Cybertruck and buying these guns beforehand, but he gets to Las Vegas. At about 7:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, this is New Year's Day. Livelsberger and his Cybertruck, they're first spotted driving around Las Vegas, and there's some surveillance video of that happening. Between 7:30 and 8, he pulls through the valet at the Trump Hotel, and then he spends the next hour driving around Las Vegas Boulevard. He then spent almost 45 minutes in a parking lot near Las Vegas Boulevard and Flamingo Road. Then at just before 8:40, he pulls into the valet area at the Trump Hotel again, and within 17 seconds of his arrival, the truck is blown up. The LA Metro PD sheriff, I think it's Kevin McMahill, but Sheriff McMahill said just before the blast, Livelsberger shot himself in the head, is the claim. Livelsberger died at the scene, and 7 others were injured, though all the injuries are very minor. Nobody's seriously hurt. Livelsberger's ID and phone, among other items, were recovered from the car. Now, the problem with the claim that he shot himself right before this car explosion is surveillance video appears to show not that. At least if you look at it's hard to see exactly what's going on here, but we're looking at the driver's side window just before the blast. And if you see right above that glare line, there appears to be a head moving sort of left and right. And even if that's not what it appears to be, you can clearly see when the blast light comes, there's a man in the driver's seat of the car sitting upright. Again, this is a guy who supposedly just blew his head off with a .50 caliber handgun. So that's very odd. Even if it's not a living person in the seat at the time, it looks like the head is pretty intact. Let's put it that way. If you shoot yourself in the head with a .50 caliber handgun, there's not a lot of head left. Clearly there is in this image, though. And just so people understand, a .50 caliber round is the largest caliber round or gun that you can get while the ATF still considers it a gun and not a destructive device. And I double checked because I thought, okay, they're reporting that he bought a Desert Eagle. Now, a Desert Eagle is a .50 caliber handgun, but maybe they meant like Desert Eagle look-alike, Desert Eagle that's actually chambered in a smaller caliber, like 9mm or something. No, the reporting indicates, and this is according to police investigators, that he had a Desert Eagle .50 caliber pistol. So that, as far as investigators are concerned, is undisputed. What was that? Sorry. There's some sound in this recording. My apology. In this video here that I'm looking at anyway. Okay. If you shoot yourself in the head with a .50 caliber Desert Eagle, that's going to be fairly obvious. The video seems to show a guy with his head intact, though. The video definitely does not show this gunshot that, again, the sheriff was saying happened immediately prior to the blast. That would also be fairly obvious. You would see that in the video. You would have witnesses. We don't have either of those things. We don't have video of the gunshot. We don't have witnesses describing hearing or seeing the gunshot. We also can see the car here before it blows up, and it doesn't appear, I know this is not great high-res video, but there's no obvious exit from a round anywhere in the window. It's not like the window's blown out. You can't really see anything in the roof of the car, depending on the angle with which he apparently shot or allegedly shot. You don't see any obvious gunshot evidence based on this video. Well, but it's a fancy Cybertruck, though. What if he shot himself, say, in that parking lot before he got to the Trump Hotel, and he had his fancy Cybertruck just drive him to the Trump Hotel to detonate all the explosive stuff that he had in the car? Well, maybe, theoretically, that could be possible. But the issue with that explanation of events is that you already have the police investigators saying, we spoke with the Tesla engineers who were deployed to the site to investigate, and they're telling us, based on data they've recovered from the car, that it was not in self-driving mode at all. The audio is a little soft here, but you can hear an investigator describing that.
From the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident.
Okay, so when did this gunshot happen? Why does the driver of the car look not at all shot up until the moment of detonation? I wish I had an answer. I don't. But it would appear the description of what happened does not match up with the video evidence that we have currently. Why would Livelsberger want to do this? That's a different question. Not immediately clear either. It does appear that he had something of a troubled personal life, both related to his military career and just matters with his wife and child. We now have people coming out saying that he was on prescription drugs or he had some mental health problems over the last year or so. We also have his wife saying that there had been there was a dispute about infidelity within the family. Livelsberger's wife tells investigators that he had been out of the house since Christmas after a dispute over allegations of infidelity. He and his wife had a newborn son. So that's interesting. There are claims now that the DNA from Livelsberger that was recovered at the scene does not match the DNA of his son. Now, I've not seen that confirmed. I've just seen it claimed. If true, that would have two possible explanations, of course. Number one, the concerns about infidelity were valid. Or number two, that was not actually Matthew Livelsberger's body in the Cybertruck. You also have family members offering commentary saying this generally does not make a lot of sense. There's the DNA claim, rather. Family members saying this doesn't make a lot of sense, or this seems out of character, or doesn't line up with our understanding of Matthew Livelsberger. His uncle is talking to The Independent, says, number one, Livelsberger loved Trump, loved the country, big patriot, conservative political orientation. But number two, if he actually wanted to create some sort of explosion, create some sort of blast, he had the knowledge from his Army Special Forces career to make something more damaging if he wanted to, but he didn't. So his uncle is saying this doesn't seem to line up with anything that makes any sense at all. And then on top of that, we have the potential personal life problems that I was discussing. There are also several writings of interest, though. Now, investigators are saying there are two things, and I think people are getting these confused or treating them interchangeably. They're not the same thing. There are the writings that investigators say they have recovered from his phone that was in the truck. And then there's an email that was received and revealed on the Sean Ryan show that is apparently from Livelsberger just prior to the blast. That's a different thing. I'll get to that in a moment. But investigators say they've recovered writings on Matthew Livelsberger's phone, again, recovered from inside the truck, and they describe these writings as personal or political grievances. Livelsberger wanted the truck explosion to be a wake-up call, he said. Livelsberger wrote that the country is being led by the weak and those out to enrich themselves. He said the explosion was not meant to be a terrorist attack, rather a stunt to get attention. And in these writings, Livelsberger expresses support for Trump and Elon Musk and RFK Jr. He also expressed disdain for diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI initiatives, and concern for income inequality and homelessness. Okay, that again is separate from the Sam Shoemate email, and I might be mispronouncing that, so apology if I am. But there's also this email that was received and then revealed on Friday on the Sean Ryan show. Sam Shoemate is a retired Army intelligence officer. Sean Ryan is a retired Navy SEAL and CIA contractor. And Shoemate says he received this email from Livelsberger a few days prior to the event. And this email says, among other things, that, hey, that recent drone activity in New Jersey, that was actually the operational use of a gravitic propulsion system, or gravitic propulsion systems powered aircraft. That's what those drones are. They're from China. What is gravitic propulsion or gravity control propulsion? Well, this is a hypothetical technology that would allow spacecraft to move by manipulating the force of gravity. This would allow spacecraft theoretically to move without the use of a propulsion system or a propellant. You wouldn't necessarily need fuel. You would manipulate the force of gravity on the aircraft. Livelsberger said that only we in China have this tech. Livelsberger also said he had knowledge of war crimes that were covered up in Afghanistan in 2019. In fact, he personally participated in the cover-up. He says there were strikes on 125 buildings that killed hundreds of civilians. Again, says he personally participated in covering this information up. And now, as part of this email, says that the feds were after him in recent days or weeks. Now, can we verify that Livelsberger actually sent this email? Well, number one, the FBI and the Las Vegas Police Department, they're saying that it appears to be legitimate and genuine. Not that we automatically trust the FBI, but that's one piece of it. Now, assuming the timestamp is legitimate, this email was sent to this guy, Sam Shoemate, with information accurate to Livelsberger the day before the event happened, New Year's Eve. About 24 hours before it happened. So unless the timestamps were faked, if someone faked this, they had a lot of specific knowledge about Livelsberger personally that turned out to be accurate. Though if you do think that Livelsberger is some kind of prop or some kind of fall guy, some kind of intentional scapegoat, whoever wanted to blame him presumably would also have such knowledge about him. Theoretically, it could be faked that way. But there's also one more wrinkle to the story that Livelsberger had a connection to fellow Green Beret and MMA fighter and internet personality Tim Kennedy. They both participated on a team in a military competition show on the History Channel in 2013. Now, here is some of that segment, as well as Kennedy's current reaction to the news.
It's a reality show that pits teams of elite soldiers from around the world against each other.
Matt and Tim from the U.S. Army Special Forces, better known as the Green Berets.
Matthew Livelsberger and his partner Tim Kelly, both Green Berets, appeared on the Ultimate Soldier Challenge 12 years ago on the History Channel. They not only won, it wasn't even close. When he appeared on the show, Livelsberger used a shortened version of his name, Matt Berg. So it took Tim Kelly a while to put two and two together.
And then I saw a Matt Berg with a older photo of him, and I was like, oh no, dude, I know that guy. And then it just tore my heart out because he was a really great Green Beret.
Tim Kelly says he hadn't heard from Livelsberger for a few years.
It just categorically does not make sense. From everything that I have heard, he was universally valued by his team, by his peers. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense, and it is just horrifically heartbreaking.
Okay, Tim Kennedy, obviously not Tim Kelly, but I think the Inside Edition reporter there just made a mistake. Okay, well, there are a lot of questions, theories, competing ideas about how we should interpret or understand this. I will have to save those for about a half hour because I want to make sure I'm timely with my guest this evening, but I'll have plenty more to say about this Las Vegas car bombing on the other side of our guest segment. But let me take a break there and see if Sean is ready to go. I will be right back. Hello, sir.
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
I am well. How are you? Well, I'm kind of well. I died over Christmas and New Year's. I passed away from some sort of insane illness, but I have reincarnated.
I caught that flu, too. I got it at Amfest from the questionable figures that are there.
Oh, well.
So
I'm sorry to hear it, but hopefully you're better. But my guest tonight, of course, is Sean Fitzgerald. You can find him on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else under the name Actual Justice Warrior. Linked in the description. Does a great job covering the news and important events with a critical eye for detail. But you're here to tell me what is going on with the New York City subway, because Kathy Hochul is out saying it's safer than ever. And from afar, I've only seen people being lit on fire and people being shoved in front of the trains. So what exactly is happening?
It might be the worst timed promotional video for the safety of the subway in the history of American politics, because she posted this video where she talked about how safe it was. By the way, also mentioned that the National Guard was there. So apparently the National Guard is there just to show how safe it is. You know, you want the guardsmen to be able to see that. And there's like photos of her taking selfies with passengers. And maybe like a day later, I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, somebody was lit on fire in the subway by an illegal alien.
So this video was just before the fire incident. This Kathy Hochul, look how safe it is video. Here's the clip.
I'm on the subway train heading out to Queens Center. I have a lot of, not quite last minute, but I have holiday shopping to do. I've got an adorable 2-year-old granddaughter, so it's a lot more fun to shop. I can take the subway wherever we need to go. And I want all New Yorkers to feel safe, which is why we've added so many more National Guard, over 250 more people that'll make sure that your ride is as safe as it can be.
And then someone got lit on fire and died.
Yes, but this cracks me up for a number of reasons. First and foremost, like, just I know you're not a New Yorker, and you know most of your audience isn't, but like just the geography of where Albany is, which is where the governor works, Buffalo, where she's from, all the way to Queens in New York City. There is no way this woman is shopping there. Like, the mall in Queens Center is not very special. It's not like it has the bestest stuff of all time. Like, so this PR stunt was laughable even without the people being set on fire or the person being set on fire. And then in addition to that, there's been a series of subway stabbings, including one where a guy committed 2 stabbings in 2 days, and we discovered that he was arrested 87 times before that.
I don't even know where to begin with all the recent cases, because of course they did finally identify the woman who was set on fire, which I definitely want to get to.
Yes.
But okay, 87 priors. What is this guy's deal?
Well, it's funny because I have a video that's coming out about this guy in particular, but apparently he's mentally distressed. I don't know if you know that. He's committing a ton of crimes, repeat offenses, and you know, it's just the sad state of our mental health system. And I find it amazing because Governor Hochul is pushing a change to a 1999 law related to mental health as the solution for this guy's problem. But the thing is, it's bail reform. That's the problem. He was arrested 87 times and then released most of those times. Like that's the main issue. And she's a champion of bail reform. It's not some like this wasn't happening to this degree in the subway prior to 2020. It's not some mystery. It's not like you need an investigation or a government commission or anything like that. Bail reform comes in 2020. You have people with dozens of arrests being released again. Eventually, they do something extreme and violent that even by New York standards, they're like, okay, maybe 2 slaps on the wrist.
I'm going to speculate, without having read the story, that perhaps he has been offered mental health services as well, and maybe has not utilized them, or maybe even refused. Is there confirmation of that?
Well, I'm not sure if he's done that. My favorite part of this story is they're like, we advise extreme caution when approaching him. It's like, yeah, he stabbed 2 people 2 days in a row. Like, yeah, definitely extreme caution.
How about don't approach him at all?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not approaching under any circumstance.
Yeah, well, it makes me laugh that the governor shook the hand of an MTA worker, like the conductor on the train. By the way, as a New Yorker, that doesn't happen. They don't shake your hands. Many of them are nice people, but that's not what happens. But she shakes the hand of an MTA worker in the train in the video, and I think 3 days in a row, MTA workers were also attacked in the subway. You know, and one of them was this guy with the stabbing. So it's like, it's not safe for the workers. These people seem very happy with this selfie. This is obviously
very authentic. Oh yeah.
Look how empty the train is too. They cleared the cart, obviously. Like the governor gets the same cart clearing treatment that you get when a homeless person is sleeping on the cart and you can smell him from the rest of the cart.
Yeah.
Like that's the treatment she gets.
Well, tell me about this reporter confronting Kathy Hochul with some data realities, because I thought that was a pretty hilarious clip. Let me play the clip, and you tell me about it.
Say a lot of things with statistics, and I see the percentage that crime is down 42% since 2021. But if you look back to pre-pandemic, and I know you like to say that overall crime is down 12% since the pandemic, but murders are up 200%. felony assault is up 55%, and burglary is up 140%. So are you saying that this is progress?
Are you talking about statewide, city, or subway?
No, crime in the transit system. I'm sorry, Governor. Yes, crime in the subway system.
Okay, you want to answer that?
Did he answer that? I didn't see the rest.
No, I assume some deflection. I did stumble on that clip on Twitter, but I found it hilarious because it's a press conference where they're talking. The headline under her is "Make the subway safer again" or "Make the subway safer." And you have the National Guard there, you have the police, and they're talking about how they're instituting a program with state police, 250 additional National Guardsmen. And by the way, if you add up all the National Guardsmen in the subway now, it's more than were there post 9/11. So that really gives you the hint on how safe the subway is. But Governor Hochul took office in 2021 when Cuomo was ousted. She was the lieutenant governor before that. So one of the things she tries to do is go with the 2021 numbers and beyond, because she wasn't in office with the major spike. You know, in 2020 in New York City, overall in the city, murder jumped 47% year over year. So if you're like, listen, I came in the next year, everything is all good, nothing to worry about, then yeah, some people will buy that if they're dumb. And I remember sending you over this article, which gives you an example of the homicides in the subway. And it's basically from 2020 to about March of 2024, more people were killed in the subway in that, little over 4-year period of time than were in the previous 15 years. But there's actually an updated number for now up to 2025. And now it's more people than were killed in the previous 20 years. So the subway is objectively more dangerous. It's just a fact. You might have some crime down in the subway that you can manipulate a stat, but there's more people being killed in the subway than there were, again, in the previous 2 decades. Like, this is a problem. And by the way, crime was worse overall in the previous 2 decades. So it's a major problem in the subway specifically.
Yeah, people were getting murdered all over New York, just not in the subway back in the 80s or whatever.
Well, it was dropping in that 2005 to 2019 period, but like, it's gotten worse, and this denial that it's gotten worse is so frustrating because look, I work from home. I don't live in Manhattan. I don't have to take the subway almost ever, but my wife works in the city. She has to take public transportation in order to get there. Like, so this constant idea from basically your progressive elites that everything is fine, everything's hunky-dory, just get in the transit system. And by the way, if you don't want to get in the transit system, here's a new congestion pricing toll to get you out of your cars, which started today, literally today. It's crazy. Because
wait, so what does that mean? They give you a better rate during peak hours, or what is that? So in practical terms, what does that mean?
So they charge you for driving below 60th Street in Manhattan, which is where the downtown areas are.
Silly
and
me.
all that.
I was thinking a discount for taking the train. They charge you to drive around. The real.
Yeah,
okay, got it.
So I actually just released what has been described as my most unhinged video ever about this, but it's $9 for regular passenger cars during peak hours, which is 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then it's $2.25 in the middle of the night at 3 a.m, when nobody's on the road anyway. Mm-hmm. So just so they can get a little bit of money. And then that's going to pay for supposedly the transit system, which is always running out of money. They can't clean the damn trains, let alone secure them. And it's because ridership is down and they need the money. But you could make them nicer and, enforce fare evasion in order to do that. It's crazy because so many of these crimes or so many of these criminals, you see them, they're a lot of them are unhinged homeless people. They're not paying for the train. In the 1990s, late 80s, 90s, we had a chief of transit police called William Bratton, and he said in order to reduce crime in the subway, he wanted to enforce fare evasion, which was not normally enforced because it was believed that it was too costly to do so. But when they did it, what they found is that they cut down on robberies and all these other crimes in the interior of Manhattan, because it turns out if you're the kind of person who's willing to violate the social norm of robbing somebody, you likely have no problem about jumping the turnstiles. And then they would arrest these people. They would run them for felony warrants. And 1 out of 7 of them would have a felony warrant that was active and standing. So we already know that this is actually a crucial entry point in order to make the city safer, but they're refusing to do so. And then using the fact that people are jumping the turnstiles more as a justification to charge drivers to get people back in the subway. Like, it's madness.
I think I saw, and we'll get to it in a moment, the most recent shoving case. They got video of the guy hopping the turnstile right beforehand, exactly to your point.
Oh,
but
that one's hilarious because there's two regular pedestrians that just hop the turnstiles. It's not him.
Oh, I thought it was him. Okay.
He might have done it before that, but in the 15-second video I saw, two random people hop the turnstiles and then they hop back over.
Maybe I was confused.
So it's like 3 crimes in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
One obviously more serious than the others.
Well, I'll get to that one in a minute. I don't want to forget about the fire case because it was so insane. To me, I don't even understand how such a thing is possible. Now more information has come out. It sounds like this was a homeless woman who was sleeping and this illegal immigrant guy lit her on fire, but they've now arrested him and charged him. Here's some local reporting about the arrest in that case. They've ID'd the woman who was burned alive too.
Now, police arresting 33-year-old Sebastian Zapeta, migrant from Guatemala, who entered the country illegally in 2018. They say he allegedly lit Quam's clothes on fire. Police believed she was homeless and sleeping on the subway when she was set on fire. Zapeta has been charged with first-degree murder. It took some time, however, to identify the victim, and that's because her body was burned beyond recognition. They had to use fingerprinting and dental records, as well as DNA testing.
Yeah. It took like a week to even figure out who she was.
Yeah, and there was some bad reporting early on that it was like some young, nice-looking 20-year-old like white woman or something.
Oh, good.
Like
she was
that.
Old and ugly. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying. Everybody should have known based on the video, and thankfully you're not showing the video because YouTube would kill you.
Yeah.
But they would set you on fire, honestly.
But
But
but yes.
But if you watch the video, the woman is standing, not screaming at all, and she's on fire. Like, she looks like the Human Torch from Marvel Comics. So this woman was obviously homeless and likely on some kind of narcotics because she was not feeling how a normal person would feel if they were set on fire. So people were putting out that, for clicks on Twitter, that it was some 20-year-old attractive girl or whatever. I don't know whose image they were using. But obviously that was not the case. It was definitely going to be a homeless person. And apparently it's a homeless person whose last known address was in New Jersey, actually. So she's just been living on the streets, in squalor, I guess. And then this guy decided to set her on fire, who, of course, has been deported from the United States, came back and enjoys the sanctuary of New York City.
And again, this happened, the day after Kathy Hochul does the Look How Safe the Subway video?
It might have been the same day or the day after.
Did Kathy Hochul, did anybody at her office respond? I'm sure they've said something about this incident. Have they not? Have you seen?
I'm sure they said something about like mental health or something, like, skirting the immigrant issue as well. Like, there might be something in this article where but this is the thing that they say. They'll constantly say, we want you to feel safe and secure in the subway. I mean, we're not going to do anything to make the subway safer, really, but we want you to feel better about it so you could take the train and presumably not pay.
And then just the other day, this happened shortly before New Year's, you had another case. I say another because I feel like I've seen 50 videos of this happening over the last couple of years, just shoving random people in front of the train. Now, I was shocked when I listened to this reporting. It sounds like the guy who was shoved survived. Is that
yes?
Okay. So here's some local reporting on the most recent shove in front of the train car.
The chilling video obtained by Eyewitness News shows a man standing close to the edge of the platform behind a couple of ferry evaders and another man approaching and casually shoving him in front of a 1 train just after 1:30 this afternoon at 18th Street. First responders would go between the stopped subway cars to rescue the 45-year-old victim and take him to Bellevue Hospital. Sources tell us he is a New York City resident and is in stable condition tonight. Less than an hour after the attack, a suspect was in custody, identified as 23-year-old Kamala Hawkins of Brooklyn.
Okay, but statistically unlikely, very rare, so don't worry about it.
Well, yeah, like one of my favorite things that they like to do is they like to say this many people take the subway in New York and only this many people died, like, because you can't compare like for like because we just went over those numbers. And I'm like, why don't you just compare the whole population of New York City to how many people died in the subway, or the population of the world if we're just like trying to expand the numerator or expand the denominator in order to obscure the numerator? Like, why don't we just do that? Because this guy's obviously unhinged. It seems like this is him going through the turnstiles. A lot of people go through this door in order to get in. So if this is him leaving, or I'm sorry, if this is him entering, this is him also not paying for the train. But yeah, this is another guy that they're like, oh, mental health, and we got to worry about that. And I'm somebody who's concerned about mental health, but maybe we address mental health prior to the point where somebody tries to murder somebody. Like, in their first couple of offenses, we then decide that we're going to look into this, rather than saying that after that, because it's by like the grace of God this guy died. The video cut, but the train was oncoming. Like, this guy clearly intended to push him in front of it, and he did, and he got run over by the train. So it's a miracle that he's in stable condition, let alone survive.
And we still have no idea why. It appears to just be a random attack. I'm just going to shove someone. Okay.
Yeah.
I
there's
appreciate
no connection, no motivation. If you see in the video, he walks by and then turns around and then shoves that guy in particular. Like, there's no explanation for it.
I'm glad he's protecting his fellow subway riders with a mask, though. It's nice not to get them sick over the holiday while you are shoving them in front of the train.
You know what I was thinking about this particular guy? I mean, I don't want to get too edgy, but this guy got caught in an hour. How dumb is he to get caught in an hour when the subway stabber guy, the multiple subway stabber guy, is still on the loose? Like, they know the other guy's name and all that, and he carries around a big red suitcase, and they still have not caught him 2 stabbings in. Like, how bad, or I don't know how bad this guy is, or how bad the NYPD precinct that's handling the other case are, but it's kind of impressive that this guy got caught within an hour.
What are they? Because they charged this guy with attempted murder, so I'm glad to see there is at least a serious charge. We'll see if he stays in custody or actually ends up in prison or whatever. What are this guy who's the serial stabber with the 87 priors? When they're letting him out, do you know what they're charging him with?
If you scroll, they'll usually have some of the thing. I don't remember the specifics, but they'll sometimes have some of the specific charges.
That other guy, his charges also include attempted murder. So the other guy will be right back out shoving people in front of the subway very soon. Dude,
well, we don't know. He's an older guy. First of all, Jesus, with that image right there, he's stabbing people with a big boy knife.
Yeah, but now you've gone and done it. Yeah,
like we don't know.
Even Crocodile Dundee is like, nope, I'm out. I can't handle this.
We don't know that if this guy is specifically. I don't have this case in front of me right now, but we don't know if he was convicted of the attempted murder, because he's like 50 something years old, so he could have served serious time under the old regime and then been let out for a bunch of these other ones. But again, weapons are highly restricted in New York City. This guy's carrying a big, ridiculous knife. If they enforced turnstile jumping against him, then they would search him and probably find that weapon, be able to pop him for that, get him off the streets, especially with an attempted murder arrest in his background. But yeah, I mean, he's just continuing. Unsurprisingly, if you let attempted murderers out, they'll attempt murder again. But this is normal.
The National Guard presence is new under Hochul, right? That was not a thing prior. So are they just standing there with guns to look imposing? Are they making arrests? What are they actually doing? Because it doesn't appear to be having much of an effect. What's going on with them?
So the reason they're not effective is that they go to specific crowded stations, which honestly are less likely to have stuff pop off, just because there's more people there and there's already more police there, and they're checking people's bags. Like that's what they do.
It's just a checkpoint kind of thing.
Yeah, which is pointless, unconstitutional, and all that. But it's like, you're not, like, these guys are already on the train. Like, they get on, they either pay one fare, if you're lucky they pay one fare, or they jump the turnstiles and then they just ride the line back and forth all day. Like, they live on the station. So you're not going to catch them, in the financial district boarding with all the other passengers.
I guess it kind of has to be that way, probably legally. Aren't there restrictions on their ability to do law enforcement anyway? Like, they can't legally do domestic law enforcement. I forget how all that works out, but
I know the feds can't order them to do regular domestic law enforcement, but I think the governors can actually do that. Okay. But I'm not entirely sure, because Texas they basically have 2 National Guards. They have the regular National Guard and then the Texas Guard. And the Texas guard is the one that they use at the border, or before the feds try to stop them. But the governor presumably had that authority to do that with his own guard. But they're also sending the state police, so I think something allows them to do this. Probably in New York, we have post 9/11 terrorism statutes that permit this to happen because they were there back after 9/11.
Well, as we get closer to the top of the hour, before I let you go, is there anything else Subway-wise that we haven't covered that you think is worthwhile for listeners to hear?
There's probably a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's the New York City Subway, and Kathy Hochul basically she cursed herself by showing us how safe it was because it's just incident after incident after incident. And again, it's something like 4 stabbings in 4 days. Transit workers being attacked. And then there's just like regular ordinary crime, which, everybody's favorite story now is actually above ground, which is the trans woman that is constantly labeled a woman that stabbed a postal worker to death over a sandwich.
Well, the postal worker probably had it coming, in fairness.
He did skip the trans woman maybe in line.
Oh, well, okay. All right. Now I understand. One other New York topic I'd be curious for your perspective on as a New Yorker, Daniel Penny acquittal, your thoughts. Were you surprised? Was that expected? What'd you think of that?
So I wasn't sure when they first, because remember, he was charged with 2 charges. It was criminally negligent homicide is the lower charge, and then the other one was manslaughter 2 or something like that, or maybe manslaughter 3. But regardless, if you get convicted of that manslaughter, you're automatically guilty of that second charge. So I was very surprised that they were deadlocked on the top charge, and then somehow they lost a guilty vote on the bottom charge. Like, that is a weird, strange development. It doesn't make any sense because, again, if you thought he was guilty of one, then not the other. But it seems like maybe one juror thought he was guilty, and the prosecution's little gambit where they threw out that charge to try to get a conviction backfired because it made that one juror think, well, if the prosecution doesn't believe in this case, then I can. So like, that case is not very surprising. There's a very famous Bernie Getz case in New York where a man was robbed, or 5 black teenagers tried to rob him, and he shot them all. And none of them died at the time. One died later. And Bernie Getz was like this nerdy guy with glasses and all that. And he became like a folk hero in the city of New York in the 1980s. And he was only convicted on the illegal gun charge. Like all the actual shootings, he was found not guilty. So like, there is like an attitude among New Yorkers about like, the homeless people on the train, they are normal and that's not unusual, but there's like a moment in time where they become unusual. And almost all of the prosecutors' witnesses testified that they were afraid, that they were terrified. And it was like women and men that had ridden the subway for 50 years, 20 years, 30 years, so they know what they're talking about. So to me, it seemed like he should have always been found not guilty, but it's a Manhattan jury. Like, they did vote for Alvin Bragg, and while you had a lot of New York City move to the right, Manhattan moved the least. So like, it's 50-50. I'm not terribly surprised by the outcome from the outset, but when they were locked on that top charge, I thought he was getting convicted maybe on that criminally negligent homicide, or at least it was going to be a mistrial.
Well, that's my guest, Sean Fitzgerald. You can find him on YouTube, Rumble, and more as Actual Justice Warrior. Again, linked in the description. Sean, is there anywhere else you'd like to send people to find you?
You can find me on Twitter at IamSean90, and also you cannot find me in that Tesla Cybertruck because yes, I was listening before. It is unusual, but I do want to add that additional DNA that wasn't his could be the owner of the car that he rented it from.
That's true. Yeah, the car was connected to other people. That's one thing I hadn't considered. You're right. Well, thank you for the insight as always, sir, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to your family, and I hope to speak with you again soon. Have a great night.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too.
Gangster. Knuckles.
And now it's time for Super Chats with Knuckle Hunky Buck.
I'm a knucklehead at times.
Well, you're still alive, so that makes one of us.
Yeah, congratulations on your resurrection.
Appreciate it.
Got that text last week, and yeah, sorry.
There are more important. Well, I guess it's not the acknowledgement of the resurrection, but there are more important resurrections this time of year. But I do appreciate your recognition of my feat. Thank you. Anyway, well, how was your Christmas and New Year's, sir?
It was very good, very good. Yeah, spent Christmas with the family. Spent New Year's out. Went out to the bar for New Year's. Actually, got dragged up on stage to sing a song impromptu. I go to a music bar, and there was nobody counting down the 10 count, and like I was about to just go up there and do it myself, and then the singer who had sung from the last band that played went up and did the 10 count, and then was like, "Oh, should we sing a song or something?" I was like, "Auld Lang Syne," and she was like, "Oh, well, I don't know that one. You want to come up on stage?" It's like, and am I really the type of person that's going to like pop up and show my face in front of everybody like completely unprepared?
No, of course not. Of course not.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
All right, let's get to some Super Chats, unless you have a punchline beyond that one.
No, that was it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you had a happy and hopefully healthy Christmas and New Year's. But
yeah. Sorry that yours was kind of a bummer.
I'm still alive somehow, so I will count that as a win. Long Dong John over on YouTube. Hillary could never win the presidency, but at least Biden gave her a presidential participation trophy. What a swell guy. Yeah, Biden and company just laughing at us with the award for Hillary. But what else is new?
Yeah, and then he's got another one. After sending my chat last week, I suddenly came up with a better name for Knuckle Hunky Buck. Uncle Buck, after a movie Matt is now guaranteed to never see.
I have not seen that one. I know it was nominated many times. That is easier to say than Knuckle Hunky Buck. Are you a fan of Uncle Buck?
I certainly don't mind it. I am an uncle. I'm a very proud uncle of a whole gaggle of nibblings, and I love all my nibblings. And Uncle Buck works for me. Like, I mean, when you call yourself Knuckle, it's you obviously don't take yourself too seriously. So Uncle Buck works.
Don't Day 2K. Tomorrow is Patriots Day. That's right. It's the big January 6th anniversary. I haven't even talked about it. I'll be flying my freaking American flag because it's 2025 and I don't care what my SoCal neighbors think. Well, I've seen indications, much like New York, as Sean Fitzgerald was talking about, maybe political or maybe public opinion is turning in California. There have been some indications of that in San Francisco and LA and beyond. So, hey man, someone's going to have to save California at some point. Might as well be you. Might as well be us. Godspeed in the Golden State.
I would say I'm almost worried that the Democrats are going to try to do a counter January 6th on the anniversary, but it's a Monday, so they've all got work, I assume.
Is the punchline that Democrats work?
Yeah, that's the punchline.
Got it. Thank you.
They've all got jobs. They're all contributing members of society.
What a hilarious premise. Who could imagine such a thing?
All right. Jonathan Prezios. I actually believe the Cybertruck story. The guy just had some PTSD, and he could appear mentally stable, but not actually mentally stable. He wanted attention for things that happen with him overseas.
I'll get to that in a moment, because all factors considered, I don't find the claim of suicide itself to be unbelievable. The only thing I can't get over is you're telling me the guy blew his head off with a .50 caliber handgun 15 seconds before that explosion, yet there's a guy in the driver's seat, like rocking back and forth in what looks like a very much alive way.
Well, and actually as far as the appearing mentally stable thing, he's driving a Cybertruck. You've seen what those look like, right?
I've seen them in person for the first time within the last couple months. I've seen them driving around town a couple times, and they look like, okay, if you ever played old school Tomb Raider with Lara Croft and her very pointy figure, they look like a low resolution Lara Croft warthog from Halo. That's what they look like. Okay?
I thought you were going to say they looked like Lara Croft's tits.
Yeah, I mean, it does have the same angles, but
no, there's something fascinating about it. Like when you see a picture of it online, that it looks silly and ridiculous. When you see it out in the wild, in the real world, it's I can't believe that somebody actually purchased that.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. It's like it has to have a unique look so everyone can see, look how wealthy or different or whatever I am. It's a status statement, but it's hideous. So I don't really know. I don't get it. It might be the coolest car in the world. I have no idea how it drives, no idea how it handles, no idea how it operates. It looks ridiculous.
It looks like it's made of Legos or something.
I've seen way better Lego cars, in fairness.
All right. And Jonathan Prezios goes on to say, he brought 2 guns. People find this weird, but he most likely used one gun to shoot himself and the other to set off the explosion, probably using tannerite.
Could be. Yeah, I haven't seen yet a confirmation for how the explosives were ignited. At least I'm not aware. So maybe there was something like that, or I don't know. I don't know how he did it or how they say he did it.
Can you program a Tesla to ignite explosives?
Ask Elon Musk and his engineering team. They would know. All right, Esoterica Unbound. Another indication of the mental health crisis in New York is the fact that Kathy
Hochul
was reelected.
Well, it's Hokum, a bunch of Hokum.
Oh,
it's a slang word. It's a funny nickname.
Oh, see, I see that, and it looks like a vulgar term to me. Anyway, she was reelected. I thought that the last we would hear of her was when she won the Belmont Stakes. I get it. It's a horse joke. And in fairness, she's much more beaver-like than horse-like, as my friend Frank over and Quite Frankly likes to mock. But I will allow this joke. I like horse face jokes.
All right, Esoterica, you almost fried my mic with that one. I was taking a sip of water when he read the Belmont Stakes.
I think we're good on YouTube and Rumble. We'll get to a few over on, or YouTube and Tippy rather. We'll get to a few over on Rumble here. Let me see. Over on Rumble, Yakko says, regarding the New Orleans and Las Vegas terror attacks, I can't pretend to have all the answers because so many things don't add up, but I do know that whatever the FBI says, I immediately doubt everything.
I doubt it.
Wise man.
I don't know why, but this week I also, again, don't have Yakko. But I do have Elbot PN, so I hope you have a sounder ready for him.
Always.
I am not going to be niggardly.
Thank you, Elbot. Appreciate it.
And then I've got Long Dong John. He's hitting both platforms tonight. All right. Matt and I once made love in New York. I convicted him and gave him a sentence of an unconditional discharge.
Okay.
You are gay.
Thank you. Dangerous Spaces, our trusty call screener and producer on the show. One of the people to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom was Michael J. Fox. According to reports, oh God, where are we going? According to reports, he was so excited. How excited was he? He was so excited to receive the honor, he was literally shaking. Oh, come on. I get it. He has Parkinson's. Thank you. Thank you, Dangerous Spaces.
All right, another one from Long Dong John. So how about those H-1B visas, Matt? That was a Christmas shit show we could have done without.
You know, I thought I was going to do a show on that Sunday, so I kind of had a lot of notes about H-1B and how it's intended versus how it's working out, and I wanted to get into that, and it didn't happen. So that was the show that never was. But I will get into the discussion a little bit more later in the show, because then Sam Hyde came out with that Dear Elon video this week, and that went crazy. And I got some things to say about that. Actually, less about the H-1B visa debate itself and more just about how to handle debate and disagreement. I thought what Sam Hyde had to say about that stuff was really interesting. Who knew, man? School shooter and philosopher, Sam Hyde. Very wise man. So I'll get into that.
I actually ended up watching that whole video, and I thought that was really interesting. It's kind of interesting to see Sam Hyde get like honest to God serious for a minute.
Yeah. So I'll get into that later on in the show, but I think we're all set with our chats for now. And Oh, Blankets over on Odyssey has, well, I could grab this meme, but I'll just describe it. You know, the little girl watching the house burn? Instead, she's in front of, the Tesla Cybertruck that's all blown up. Anyway, you had to see the meme, I guess. Thank you, Blankets. And he also says, how was your Christmas, Matt? Did you get your wife any presents? I did. Although my family and I agreed that we were only going to get presents for the boys. We're going to make it, Christmas gifts for our kids, but not for each other as adults. I cheated. I got my wife a Christmas gift, but yeah, we didn't make a huge spectacle of presents or anything like that. But it was great. To be with family and struggling to survive, struggling to get through the sickness together. So all things considered, it was a good Christmas, just an unfortunately ill one. But anyway, well, I guess that's all we got for chat for now. I appreciate you coming by as always, my friend. Anything before I let you get out of here?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of advice to Justin Trudeau if he happens to be a viewer of yours.
I know he is.
He should probably get out before he's really sorry, because it sounds to me like Canadians are about to syrup and maple leaf him.
Look at this fat.
All right. Get out of here, as always.
All right. Thank you, sir. See you next week.
Get the hell out of here.
All right. See you next week, man. There he goes. Knuckle Hunky Buck. We appreciate his help with Super Chat. Oh, I didn't mean to press a Biden, but whatever. I'll allow it. Appreciate Knuckle Hunky Buck's help as always. And of course, we will come back to your chats.
I'll have to just circle back with you
at the end of the show. But I got to get back into the news, man. Okay, so where did I left off with the Las Vegas stuff. And we had that super chat from Jonathan Prezios, I think, about what to make of what happened in Las Vegas. And there are a few theories about what we just watched. Number one, there's the face value theory. Okay, this is a guy, Matthew Livelsberger, with an extensive combat history in the Army. Again, according to some in his family or friends of his, he was using prescription drugs. He had some mental health issues. He's got this dispute at home about infidelity with his wife. Totally possible that this guy just snapped. That he decided, like, unfortunately, far too many of our veterans do. Now, he's active duty, but military personnel, that he is part of an unfortunate trend of suicides among military personnel. It's not at all hard to believe that something like that could happen, and that he decided he wanted his effort to be high profile, that he wanted to make a show of it for whatever reason. Again, I don't find any of that hard to believe. What I find hard to believe, number one, is what we saw with the seeming lack of a gunshot wound based on the video evidence. And then number two, this guy, according to everybody who knows him, was conservative, loves Trump, is a big patriot. Why is he making the show? If he wants it to be a big show, why is he doing it in a way that's going to damage a Trump property and put a bunch of people at the Trump property at risk? Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense in that regard. Did we watch some sort of attempt at like a fake death or an escape? That email to Sam Shoemate describes fleeing to Mexico. That's actually one of the first things. Let me bring that up. Is Livelsberger wrote in that email, in case I don't make it to my decision point or on to the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Well, what did he mean? Did he mean fleeing to Mexico? Did he want it to look like he died and then he fled somewhere else to pursue whatever his purposes might be, whether it was family related stuff, whistleblower stuff, who knows? But again, if this was like some sort of fake death or an attempted fake death or whatever, why is he targeting a Trump property? Why is he putting others in danger in this way? There's a lot of ways to fake a death that don't involve this level of theatrics or danger to others. Third possible interpretation, did the government or some other enemy kill him? Enemy of his? Did he have enemies within the government that didn't like what he perhaps was right about to say publicly, again, about the drones or about what happened in Afghanistan and his knowledge of and participation in a cover-up of human rights abuses or improper bombings, killings of civilians, that sort of stuff. Did someone not like what he was about to say? Did the government, did some other enemy of his shut him up? Maybe if so, though, again, you'd have to expect they could make this guy disappear with something much more stealthy than a fireworks show at the Trump Hotel. So if you ask me, given all the factors, yeah, I probably would accept that suicide explanation. It's not beyond belief. In fact, it fits an unfortunate trend. You know, a guy who's had enough in his army career, had enough in his personal life, decided this is the way that he wants to go out. Okay. The problem again is that the video doesn't show the guy going out that way. So I don't know based on that video what to believe. My guess is he's flying a gravity propulsion drone over Mexico right now, but we'll see if we get more information on it. That'll bring us to the New Orleans terrorist attack. And of course that immediately preceded what happened at the Trump Hotel. So this is now they're saying an ISIS-inspired man who drove a truck down Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Again, this is during New Year's celebrations about 3 a.m. Wednesday. He killed 14. He injured dozens more, something like 35, 36 people. The attacker then engaged police in a gunfight and was shot dead by police at the scene. There's video of it out there. I can't show it. YouTube's not going to allow that kind of thing, but it is out there. The attacker is 42 or was 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, not Kareem Abdul, but Shamsuddin Jabbar. And when I first saw this photo of him, I thought that looks AI generated, but I guess that is the FBI's official photo of the guy. And he drove a rented electric Ford truck with an ISIS flag attached to the back through all of these people. Now, how did this truck actually get into the crowd? Well, there's video of it happening. And he just easily went around New Orleans police squad cars that were intended to block vehicular access to the celebration, but clearly did not function that way.
New video showing the terrifying moments on Bourbon Street. Pedestrians fleeing that white pickup truck after the driver jumped a curb, past a police car, and barreled down the street, all captured on surveillance video.
Okay, so about the attacker here, Jabbar was a U.S.-born citizen living in Houston. There were initially some reports about border crossing, about where he came from. He's been in the U.S. his entire life. He was born here. He was a citizen. He was in the Army for many years. He was recently working in the Houston area as a real estate agent. And he had some videos online explaining some of his professional career and some of his current work.
And now live in Houston. And I've been here all my life. With the exception of traveling for the military, where I spent 10 years as a human resources specialist and IT specialist, where I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch.
Now, how and why he apparently became some kind of ISIS operative or some kind of ISIS sympathetic or allied guy remains under investigation. The investigation itself has been all over the place. First, the FBI said, well, no, this was not a terror attack. And then it became 100% ISIS-inspired terror attack. So immediately on Wednesday morning, the FBI deployed Assistant Special Agent in Charge Alethea Duncan to tell the press and the public that this was not a terror attack at all, actually.
This is not a terrorist event. What it is right now is their improvised explosive devices that was found, and we are working on confirming if this is a viable device or not.
Well, that's strange if you're going to say it's not a terrorist event, but we have recovered or seen multiple IEDs. Wouldn't finding the bombs make it more likely to be a terrorist event? What she's referring to is the fact that Jabbar had placed 2 IEDs in a couple different locations in the area. Apparently, this guy was walking around the days prior with whatever those like VR glasses are. He was doing a bunch of surveillance. before he conducted this attack, and then he also placed a couple of these IEDs. He had some sort of remote detonation system, and I guess he was going to detonate them from the truck. That didn't happen. Neither apparently detonated. But if there are bombs, that sounds kind of terroristy. So on what basis are you saying this is not a terrorist event, especially when you're acknowledging the bombs in that statement? And the ISIS flag also looks kind of terroristy, which again was known immediately because they saw it on the truck right away. She's talking hours after the fact and saying it's not a terrorist event when they've seen the truck with the ISIS flag while she's saying that. And now the FBI is telling us that this guy was making social media videos praising ISIS right before the attack. The FBI says Jabbar posted 5 videos right before the attack on social media proclaiming his support for ISIS. As far as I've seen, these videos are not publicly available. I mean, they must have been at some point because they've been recovered. I have not seen them, though, and I was not able to find them. But according to the FBI, in the first video, Jabbar explained that he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the headlines would not characterize it the way that he wanted, which is a war between believers and disbelievers. So he decided to attack the public, apparently. In another video, Jabbar says he joined ISIS before this summer. So it was not a terrorist attack until they looked at it for 5 seconds and it showed it was obviously an ISIS-inspired attack. The FBI totally reversed itself. Did we say not a terrorist event because we meant a 100% ISIS-inspired terrorist event?
The FBI saying the suspect, 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, was 100% inspired by ISIS.
He posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS.
And it wasn't just whether it was terrorist connected or not. It was also what sort of help or what sort of contacts Jabbar had or didn't have. Because in this context, he was a lone wolf until, again, they looked at it for, well, it was the reverse. First he had help, then they looked at it for 5 seconds, and then he was a lone wolf. And maybe they flipped back. I can't keep track. But first, the FBI spokeswoman that we heard say this is not a terrorist event, said that Jabbar had several accomplices who helped him place his IEDs. Again, how you can say, it's not a terrorist event, we just know a bunch of guys are working together to place bombs across the city. Okay, thank you for that. But then the next day, the FBI reversed and said, well, no, we thought that he actually had a bunch of help placing these bombs. We looked at it, turns out he just was wearing different clothes. So he was, in fact, a lone wolf. It was him doing it. Nobody helped him. But will they flip on that again? They probably already have, since I've looked. But investigation has now revealed that Jabbar recently went to Egypt as well. And so investigators are looking at what sort of contacts he potentially had in Egypt. According to his family, Jabbar went to Egypt because it was cheap and beautiful. That's why he went to Egypt. It was cheap and beautiful. But ABC is reporting that Jabbar had contact with some kind of ISIS representative or member, potentially as part of this trip. And adding to the curiosity, Jabbar apparently used a very rare explosive, or at least police are saying that. They say that to make these IEDs, he used some kind of very rare explosive compound. They don't know how he was able to make this chemical. They say that the compound has never been used before in a terrorist attack in the US or Europe. And again, apparently it didn't work, whatever it was. They're not specifying. They won't say what the compound was. But it's very rare, and it's never been used in the US or Europe. Where did he get this knowledge? Where did he get this material? That would also lead us to believe that potentially he was not the lone wolf that you tell us that he is, that he had some kind of connection, that he had some kind of training, that he had some kind of supplier, all of those things. Whatever happened here, though, was very out of character. You know, Jabbar was just a guy who loved to go vacationing in Egypt. And yes, he had this sudden Walter White level chemistry mastery, but that was just a hobby for him. Jabbar's family, specifically his brother, says there were no red flags about this at all. This while speaking to a local reporter.
Jabbar's younger brother telling KPRC he noticed no red flags.
This wasn't the man I knew. This wasn't the father, the son that I knew.
I doubt it.
Now, technically, that is correct. There was no red flag. There was just a black and white ISIS flag on the back of the truck. So, in fairness, accurate. Now, of course, we can't talk about the investigation or even preventative policing competence or incompetence without mentioning the grandma who apparently is the New Orleans police chief. Ann Kirkpatrick is the superintendent of the New Orleans PD, the chief, in other words. And she comes to New Orleans from this after getting fired from Oakland, California in 2020. She was Oakland's historic first female police chief. And she was asked, hey, why weren't there physical barriers beyond the police cars to stop this sort of attack? Why were the physical barriers so lacking? And Ann Kirkpatrick explained that the city is working on repairs or upgrades to this existing barricade system ahead of the Super Bowl, which will be in New Orleans next month. Those repairs, those upgrades were not complete. And so, yeah, they just used a few cop cars to block a couple of spots, which this guy very easily drove around. And also, it turns out they did, in fact, have plenty of other physical barricades available. It's just, hey, dang it, she didn't even know that they had those things.
Jabbar was driving down Canal Street. He made a sharp right on Bourbon. We have video of it. You can see him just barreling past the NOPD car, getting right up there on the sidewalk. The car was meant to block him, but clearly didn't do the job. And we were just talking about those ballards, those barricades that were under repair. Should those have been up and running for the Sugar Bowl?
Well, they were not able to be up and running, and that is because it was under repair. We were aware of this issue, and that's why we were using patrol cars. That will be changing today. We will have much heavier equipment to harden these softer targets. So the city had a multi-million-dollar package for repairing this infrastructure, obviously in time for the Super Bowl, but it was not complete at the time of this event last night.
Overnight, our crews found some side streets leading to Bourbon Street still without hard barriers. The city adding these so-called yellow archers to sidewalks, which it had on hand before the attack, but was not using. Where did they come from?
Actually, we have them. I didn't know about them, but we have them. And so we have been able now to put them out.
Okay. So to recap, we knew our defenses were lacking, so we did not use the other defenses that we had available, primarily because I didn't know we had them. But don't worry, we're going to change our policy now after 14 are dead and dozens are injured. I can see why she got fired from Oakland. This is kind of like putting on your seatbelt after the head-on. Okay, well, I'm glad a lesson was learned, but foresight might have been valuable. And it's not just foresight that you would expect from a police chief generally, like, hey, it'd be great if you thought about this in time instead of after the fact. It's that this exact problem was warned about in detail way before this event ever happened. Just last month, in general, not just to leaders in New Orleans, but to leaders in cities across the country, DHS and the FBI were warning city leadership, hey, watch out for vehicle ramming attacks over the holidays, because those are very hot right now. Okay, but that's a general warning, not a specific one. Well, it turns out that the city of New Orleans actually worked with a consulting firm dating back to 2019, and they said, hey, what are some security vulnerabilities within our city? What can we do to better improve our defenses against, exactly this kind of attack? And one of the recommendations in that report, again, 5 years ago, was that these physical structures, these physical barriers called bollards, these vertical posts that can block vehicles, that those be fixed and improved immediately. Now, of course, at least supposedly they are getting fixed and improved now, but it's 5 years after the fact. I'm not necessarily blaming Police Chief Grandma for that. I understand that she's not the one necessarily appropriating money for that or creating the plan for those things to get installed, repaired, or otherwise. But someone in the city, someone in city leadership is not doing this in a timely fashion. That's for sure. And then for police chief grandma, it sounds like you had resources to make up for the lack of bollards available, and you just didn't realize that they were even available to you, which turns out to have been a very tragic misunderstanding. And all of this has happened. So now we have what appears to be an ISIS-inspired jihadi man driving a truck through Bourbon Street, running a bunch of people over at a very high rate of speed. You see the videos of the aftermath of this, and it is horrific stuff. And you have all of this happening under a president who warned us not to worry about radical Islamic terrorists, or at least don't worry about them relative to the real threat. And the real threat, both in our military, as Jabbar was, and domestically in our country, in the general population, it's you evil white supremacists. It's not radical Islam. It's not jihadis. It's white supremacists everywhere. Biden used his inaugural address to warn us all that it's these evil, white, conservative, racist people that are the real threat to the country. He didn't just do that in his inaugural address. He's repeated it time after time throughout his 4-year tenure. Here are just a few examples of that happening.
And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism, that we must confront and we will defeat.
According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland. We cannot and must not give hate any safe harbor.
Stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
And we won't ignore what our intelligence agencies have determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism. According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists. That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
Apparently the threat was way more serious back then. What exactly is the white supremacist body count through the Biden term? Over or under 14, which is the benchmark set in the French Quarter in New Orleans? Or, you know what? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe Joe Biden was so good at thwarting all these white supremes everywhere that they were completely ineffective under his watch. So jihadis have regained the lead, apparently, is what happened. But that's what we understand out of New Orleans so far. Again, more information likely coming on that one. I will update as it becomes available. Other big news over the weekend, a little bit of drama, brief drama. It did end pretty quickly. That being the congressional theater of the re-election of Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. That happened on Friday. This will actually be Mike Johnson's first full term as Speaker. It seems like he's been in there forever, but he's actually only been in for a little over a year. Remember, he was elected to replace Kevin McCarthy after McCarthy was ousted in October 2023. Now, numerically for Mike Johnson, with Matt Gaetz out of Congress, he already had a very slim majority after the election. Matt Gaetz is out. Mike Johnson could afford to lose only one Republican and still get the necessary 218-member majority to be Speaker. And originally, 3 Republicans ended up opposing Mike Johnson. You had Ralph Norman of South Carolina, who voted for Jim Jordan. Keith Self of Texas voted for Byron Donalds. Thomas Massey of Kentucky voted for Tom Emmer. And that rebellion lasted for about 45 minutes. Trump then personally called Self and Norman. They switched their votes, gave them to Mike Johnson. Earlier in the week, Trump had endorsed Mike Johnson for Speaker. He was kind of sitting on that this entire time, letting the fighting happen, see where it goes. He did endorse Johnson. He apparently did persuade Ralph Norman and Keith Self. And so Mike Johnson ended up with the necessary votes, though it sounds like Thomas Massey remained committed to Tom Emmer. There are some changes that come with the election of Mike Johnson, the re-election of Mike Johnson as Speaker. Mike Johnson released a series of promises. This was to help persuade people to vote for him beforehand. Now, he said he's going to create a working group of independent experts to explore spending, federal or spending cuts, potential spending cuts. And also he is going to have new committees to aggressively review federal funding. So we have more government investigations of itself to try to figure out how much government is wasting. That's what we're talking about. Great. Okay. The political reality for Republicans, I'm not thrilled to see Mike Johnson retain the speakership given his tenure prior. I don't think, classic example of progressives going the speed limit, that sort of thing. You're a speed bump. I guess that's better than going 80, but it's still not the right direction. The practical political reality is that Mike Johnson was just the least bad option for Republicans. Because if Republicans decide they're going to mess around like what happened last time, I'm not saying it was necessarily wrong. Mess around is maybe the wrong word, because people had, I think, principled reasons for their opposition to McCarthy last time around that turned out to be perfectly valid. So I'm not dismissing it as just foolishness. When I say messing around, what I mean is there's a certain danger or even a recklessness in allowing the votes to keep going and going and going and no speaker selected. Because if Republicans hold the line and decide Mike Johnson is unacceptable, we want someone more conservative, well, as a practical reality, you're probably not going to get the votes for that person. And the longer that goes on, the more likely it is you annoy the 2 or 3 or 4, however many moderate Republicans are necessary to get irritated and actually side with Democrats to elect Hakeem Fart Hard Jeffries as your new speaker.
We will fart hard.
And then he's farting hard all over the congressional floor for the next 2 years or so. So you have to make your pick. Like, would you rather have Mike Johnson than Hakeem Jeffries? Yeah, I would. And I understand why people would vote that way. But it also appears, it's not just like what I would say are probably platitudes or sort of empty gestures of we're going to have consultants tell us how we shouldn't spend so much money anymore. And we're going to maybe pay them for the service. I don't know. But there are some other meaningful policy changes here. And actually, it's going to help Mike Johnson be more safe in his office than McCarthy was or than Johnson himself was this last term. Now, recall in 2023, to get the speakership, Kevin McCarthy agreed to change the House rules to allow a single member to call for a vote to remove the speaker, a motion to vacate the chair. Previously, that required a majority of a party to do. And it was actually Nancy Pelosi who changed that before Kevin McCarthy did. Nancy Pelosi changed that rule prior to 2019. It used to be one member could bring the vote prior to Pelosi. Pelosi changed it to the majority of a party is required. McCarthy agreed to change it back as part of his concessions to other members to get the votes he needed to become speaker. Well, now they've changed the rule again. The new rule is a vote to remove the speaker, in this case, Mike Johnson. That can be held if 9 members support it. Now, I don't know why 9. I don't really understand the thinking on this. There's got to be a reason. I'm not keen on it, but now it's not 1 member. Now it's not a majority of a party. Now it's 9 members can move to remove the speaker. So that's where it stands there. And we'll see if Mike Johnson is actually committed to maybe getting some of Washington absurdity under control. We'll see how he works with Trump to do that or not. But I want to talk a little bit about the viral video of the week. Got into this a little bit with Super Chat. And that would be Sam Hyde's Dear Elon video. It was posted on X and elsewhere on Tuesday night. Now, last week, of course, the show I would have done if I wasn't dead sick, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and others created this big controversy on X with their stated support for what's called the H-1B visa program. And this is a program that allows tens of thousands of supposedly high-skilled immigrants into the country each year. That's the idea for the H-1B visa program. Oh, we need very highly educated, very skilled workers to fit in this particular niche that the American worker can't satisfy. And so we allow people to come to this country to work. That's the idea. Now, in practice, the program is massively used by tech companies importing people from predominantly India. And in many cases, it looks like it is abused way beyond its intent. That is to say, instead of getting skilled workers to come work here where maybe those workers are lacking in America, the program is often used to undercut American workers or replace them outright. And so Elon Musk comes out in support of this program, says it's very important, gets a lot of backlash on X for that stance. And it appears to be, I say appears to because I don't, it's hard to say what for sure happens, but it looks like there's been some retaliation against accounts critical of him in response. It looks like there's been removal of verification and your blue check mark. It looks like blocking people from the subscription program on X, where people who enjoy a particular account can support that account financially. As far as I've seen, kind of unconfirmed whether A caused B, as in criticizing Elon, ratioing Elon, gets that person their verification taken away, gets them removed from the subscription program. There's a lot of coincidental timing, at least. And Elon Musk came out and put out a tweet that said something to the effect of, if you have an account that we believe to be a troll account or an account that's boosted by a bunch of things we consider to be bot accounts, or otherwise you have these bad metrics that we don't like, we're going to reduce the reach of that account through a bunch of different ways. And all of this, even though the response to Elon Musk, again, the criticism of his position on the H-1B visa program, that was not bot activity. That was not boosted. That was completely organic. Elon Musk really stepped in it as far as his provocation of people hating his opinion. He put an opinion out there. That opinion was genuinely hated. We can have the debate about, what the correct position is. I'm just saying the idea that Elon Musk was fighting troll accounts or bot accounts. No, he was fighting the very real, very authentic opinions of a lot of people. That's what happened. And so Sam Hyde takes a break from, of course, his usual school shootings. And he makes this 46-minute video on the topic, and it's just called Dear Elon. And he posts it on X. And this thing is something of a masterpiece. It's got 20 million views, 136,000 likes on Elon's platform. And it is largely a refutation of Elon's political position, again, his position on the H-1B visa program. But what I appreciate about this, and that's not to dismiss Sam's argument on the policy matter, but what I appreciate about this is what it has to say that's well beyond that. It's about the general idea of how to engage with disagreement, how to have a public disagreement and still retain your dignity and still be respected. It's about how to win an argument, and it's about how to persuade people. And here's just a portion of the video. Again, it's over 45 minutes long. There's the policy argument itself, and then there's how to deal with an argument.
Blanket banning groypers, taking away blue checks, changing the algorithm of the site because 100 people ratioed you. They're all organic, by the way. This is not some Russian bot farm. It's not some nefarious behind the scenes, let's mess with Elon, we're gonna fuck with him. That's not what it is. It's you tapped into a mainline concern for the American people. And you treated it in a way that was glib and dismissive. People fucking love you. They will forgive you. Nobody is trying to get you to become turbo base pilled, full Pat Buchanan immigration policy. People broadly understand that you are a San Francisco, tech, California, international immigrant. You want to be the man in America. You have to fight for the American people. You're not fighting for a paragraph. You're not fighting for a set of ideas, man. It's the American people who need your help. That's fundamentally why I think people are pissed off here. And it's an easy fix. Just don't call them retards.
It's that last sentence that's the reason I highlight this clip and why I find it so fascinating. Just don't call them retards. Okay? Great thing to commit to your own memory. It's not to say like, oh, I'm not trying to be all ad hominem is not a valid argument. You know what? Of course, like insults can be fun. There's a certain joy in being trolling. But I'm saying if you want to maintain respect and genuinely win an argument, refrain as much as possible from calling them retards. And what Sam Hyde is talking about here, I don't think Elon Musk actually called people retarded, unless I missed it. I don't think he's being literal there, but he's talking about the attitude with which Elon Musk entered this debate. And it was very dismissive. And it was, oh, you only think this because you're that. You only believe this because you're that. Okay. Regardless of perspective, regardless of position on immigration or these visas or anything else about this particular debate, just don't call them retards. It's a great thing to remember to keep yourself centered. Because it doesn't matter if you're a lefty, commie gender studies student or you're a right-wing Reich Lord or whatever you are. If your argument against your opposition is you're retarded, that's all you got, or something thematically related to that, you are probably losing. You probably will lose. At the very least, you're not convincing people, and that's why you're saying these things. The more sophisticated way to say don't call them all retards is don't let your emotional preferences remove you from your obligation to persuade. Entering any argument, whether it's about visas, whether it's about tax policy, whether it's about anything, assume the person that you're arguing with is intelligent. That goes whether you're doing an in-person debate or whether you're engaging with a high-profile Twitter account like Elon Musk or something like that. Assume the person is intelligent. Assume the person is good-natured. And also assume the burden is on you to support your position. Assume beyond that if the truth is on your side, that you will win because you will. Now, you're retarded. Just call them all retards. That's the opposite of that approach in every single way. It is assuming that the person that you're arguing with is dumb. It assumes that the person that you're arguing with is bad. It assumes that you, in fact, have no burden to support your own position with reason, evidence, any sort of supporting pieces. And it assumes that the truth is automatically on your side. After all, your opposition, a bunch of retards. The truth is not automatically on your side. No matter how well connected to it you are, you still have that obligation to maintain that connection and support it with evidence and reasoning and the like. And so this whole explanation from Sam Hyde was really an excellent reminder of a few things I think are important to remember regardless of your perspective and regardless of how your perspective changes over time. One, always assume that you have to win the argument. It is not automatically won for you, no matter how obvious your position may seem to you, because it isn't. It will become obvious if you have the supporting evidence, the supporting reasoning, and the good faith view of those who disagree with you to inform them of those things in a good-natured way. But number two, the other piece of wisdom you can extract from don't call them all retards. Always be open to the idea that you could be wrong. Because eventually you will be if you aren't already. So don't call them all retards. Because do you know what happens when you consider the possibility that you're wrong? When you do that seriously and with humility, guess what? You entertain all the arguments seriously. You consider all the arguments, even those you disagree with, at their best. And even if you don't change your mind, you still stick with your original position. You've considered all the competing positions. You don't change your mind. But guess what? Your position is now stronger. Your view is now stronger because you understand the challenges and the counters to your own perspective and why those challenges and counters are wrong. There's a famous quote that's always attributed to Aristotle. Apparently it's wrong, but it's the quote is, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Yeah. That's why you don't just call them all retards. It's because it takes a certain intelligence to be able to consider a perspective other than your own and why a person other than you might hold that perspective. So we should all stay philosophical about this stuff. Don't call them all retards, even if sometimes they are retards. And even though retard jokes can be funny, I'm not saying never. It's just, it shouldn't be your primary mode of argument. But stay philosophical. Don't call them all retards. Ask persistently why they are retards. And never quit digging for the origin of the retardation. That's the lesson I learned from Sam Hyde. He did a wonderful job. But with that, it is time to get to Hoax Hate.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
At UCLA, campus police are investigating an apparent drive-by slurring in which a presumably gay student was presumably called the anti-gay F word, though investigators are not clarifying with certainty what slur it was. Making matters worse, the perpetrators are believed to have thrown wads of paper at the victim.
UCLA police are investigating a possible hate crime near campus. It happened on Christmas Eve, and we're told the student was walking on Weyburn Avenue when a black Mercedes convertible pulled up next to them. 4 people were inside that car. They allegedly yelled homophobic slurs and threw wads of paper at the student. Thankfully, that student was not physically hurt, but anyone with any information about this case is urged to call police.
Oh, thankfully he was not physically hurt by wads of paper. Could have been so much worse. There could have been paper cuts involved. God knows what. So, of course, now general college hijinks and tomfoolery, not just a matter for campus entertainment. It's a matter for police investigation and I guess nightly news coverage in Los Angeles. Never mind the fact that if you simply hang out on the LA streets otherwise, it's only a matter of time before a much more serious crime confronts you. We're going to pretend like this is an issue of public concern. Otherwise, I was reviewing College Fix's hoax hate crime year in review, at least the ones on college campuses. They have a summary of all the college campus hoax hate incidents for 2024. And I was reading through these and I recognized many of them because we've talked about them on the stream. But I got down to item 12 and I thought, well, that's different and interesting. And I don't remember that one, so I got to read about it. According to the description here, this is item 12 in their list. LGBT hate crime victim in Illinois, or hate crime victim at Illinois State University is not even gay. University omits key reasons why case was closed. At first I thought, is this a case of someone faking being gay for victimhood?
I'm gay, you fucking bitch!
But that is not what happened, apparently. At least not quite, though the details of what did are arguably funnier. Bottom line, the school gave the impression that the supposed victim was gay or allowed that perception to persist, presumably, cynically, to perpetuate the narrative. But what happened? Okay, back on August 24th, there was this supposed incident of anti-gay violence on campus, again, Illinois State University. This is just as the semester is starting back in August. And this was an incident, according to the report, involving 4 students supposedly confronting and attacking a student on a scooter. And I thought, well, what do you mean? I thought the report said the student isn't gay, but he's on a scooter. Well, that's where it gets quite funny. So, just hang on.
That's a big game, man.
The student reported being repeatedly referred to with homophobic offensive terms, and the F slur and other things. He told campus police that this group of people, they knocked him off the scooter and they punched him in the face. And as a result, of course, students hosted pro-gay pride or gay safety marches on campus. They pressured campus leadership, the school administration, for policy changes to make the gay community more safe. But nothing ever came of the investigation. No suspects were ever identified, no charges brought. The College Fix eventually obtained the police report through a public records request. And that's where we get information on what exactly happened here. Turns out the whole thing was bogus. The detective who wrote the report on the incident concluded that he was unable to establish the elements of a crime. The primary reason for being unable to establish the elements of a crime is that the accuser could not recall any details about the alleged attackers, so they don't even know who it supposedly was. But according to police investigators, again, the accuser told them that he is not gay, but he believes he was targeted with an anti-gay slur because he rides a scooter. So hey, listen, I'm not gay. I was just called a faggot because I was riding a scooter. And so that makes this an anti-gay incident. And that is what happened here. According to the report, the F slur was yelled at the scene, but it was actually between friends, and it was not at this scooter kid. This scooter kid is just so self-conscious about how gay he looks riding a scooter that he thought someone called him a faggot. But they didn't. It was just drunk people on campus messing around with each other, and someone else called... The faggot word was uttered, but it was different people calling each other faggots. Not this self-conscious scooter kid. He was not called one. And so, even though, so investigators knew the kid's not gay, it's not an anti-gay hate crime because this kid's not gay. He's just a self-conscious scooter kid. The police actually found video of the alleged incident. They concluded that it did not show a physical confrontation, as the accuser reported. The accuser had told them that he had been beaten up for something like 30 seconds. He was punched repeatedly for about 30 seconds. They found video, and they found whatever interaction there was between this group and this kid was closer to 1 second. And there was no violence at all, if they even exchanged any words. And so then the accuser changed his story. He said, well, I wasn't punched. I wasn't attacked for that long, but I was pushed up against the wall. He's pushed up against the wall. Again, doesn't appear that police were able to substantiate that claim either. But where it becomes a problem for the rest of the campus community is, despite the story changing, despite the police investigation that couldn't substantiate the original claim, despite knowledge that the accuser wasn't even gay or targeted for being gay, campus police and the school administration never corrected the record publicly. They just kind of let the case go away. The College Fix then followed up and asked the university and campus police, hey, why didn't you clarify these new facts? So people know there's not an anti-gay hitman rolling around campus. Campus police chief said the lack of sufficient evidence to make an arrest does not mean that the incident didn't happen. So we didn't want to come out and say it didn't happen. Okay, but nobody's asking you to come out and say it didn't happen. They're asking, why didn't you make the general campus public aware that this event was not what it was originally portrayed as? That is to say, you don't have to say it didn't happen definitively. You can say, hey, by the way, I know everyone's worried that this was an anti-gay attack. Turns out the person who was allegedly attacked isn't even gay. Okay, that's useful information for people to have. This couldn't have been an anti-gay event because the person involved isn't gay. They didn't do that, though. And so you draw your own conclusion about why they didn't do that, or what sort of perception they'd like to maintain by not doing that. And as far as the lying accuser, again, this looks like a person who's lying to campus police and investigators. I don't see any accountability for that person. That person was never identified publicly, as far as I've seen in this reporting. Presumably, he is still scooting around campus non-gaily today. Although, based on this story, maybe he will claim to be gay just to collect on the victim points.
I'm gay, you fucking bitch!
And to justify his scooting around campus. But that was a new one. I've not heard anti-gay hate crime turns out to be fake because the guy wasn't gay. He just rides a scooter. That's a new one to me. So enter that into the Hoax Hate archive. But with that, I will catch up with your chats and we will call it an evening. Let me refresh over on YouTube and Tippy. Take a look at over at Rumble while I do. Likes to watch says, last rant didn't go through. Too lazy to retype on my shitty phone. Hope you feel better soon, boss. Cheers. Well, thank you for your support. Appreciate it very much.
We love you. You're very special.
Hopefully better by next week. But of course, I'll be back Wednesday regardless. By the way, Frank, my friend Frank will join on Wednesday. and we'll have his monthly appearance, and I'll take your calls on Wednesday as well, and then we'll be back on regular video and stream schedule. Thank you, likes to watch. Over on more memes from Blankets over on Odyssey. Appreciate that. It also has a Pepperidge Farm meme that says, remember before his H-1B stance, Elon said he supports free speech. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yeah, it was very troublesome to see what appears to be, again, Elon Musk is going to say, oh, I'm not doing censorship. I'm not punishing viewpoints. It's just when you're an obvious troll account or associated with bots, then I'm going to take away features or reduce your reach. But that's even with the old Twitter regime. And again, like Sam Hyde said, I take all the good Elon with all the bad Elon, okay? He's a guy who has done great things, not just in the free speech world, but in the tech, all that. He's done a lot of great things in his life. He's also made a lot of mistakes in his life. I think he's embarking on some mistakes here, so I'm not acting like it's all disaster and nothing positive. I think Twitter's a better place now than it was before he took control of it, before he bought it. But you have to recognize, if you're in his position, just a little bit of censorship, whether it's only the worst people and their terrible perspectives, or just the lightest touch. We're not banning them. We're just taking away certain features or otherwise reducing their accounts. You have to recognize that's always how it starts. It always starts with the people that are supposedly considered the worst. And it always starts with what are perceived to be the least restrictive means. And what happens from there, it's a staircase of escalation until all of a sudden you're banning people with totally normal opinions outright, which is what happened with the prior Twitter regime. I'm not saying Elon Musk is going to do that tomorrow. I'm just saying if he lacks the foresight to realize that just a little bit of, he's got like the ring of power. Oh, why don't I use it just a little bit? If you lack the foresight to realize that if you exercise it in just that little bit way, that it's not going to go directly to the thing that you just purchased this company to destroy, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that seems like a very easy thing to recognize. And I hope that he changes his mind about this stuff. I hope there's a course correction. We'll see if it happens. Sam Hyde's right. You can make mistakes. People understand who you are. They don't expect perfection. You can come back and say, well, I handled it this way, but I think that was wrong, and I'm going to do it this way going forward. That's great. Make mistakes, own up to them, fix them. I really just hope he doesn't dig in his heels and go down the path that his predecessors did. We'll have to see how that goes. Thank you, Blankets. Over on YouTube and Tippy, let me scroll down a little bit here. A. Denigan says, wife is getting induced with our first tomorrow. Well, that's
Congratulations, butthead.
It seems like I'm getting a capital baby. January 6th. Yeah. Thanks, Matt, for all your encouragement through the show on becoming a father. Well, sincerely, congratulations. Welcome to the club. I'm really glad for you and your wife, and you can make January 6th jokes about your son or daughter for the rest of their life. So congratulations to you guys. And I appreciate, it's my personal honor to know that some of the things I've said were helpful to you in that journey, because it is the most important journey of your life. And I'm really happy that you're on it. So thank you for supporting the show. Canadian with a K, 33, can't watch live because the kids are crazy. Speaking of, just want to pop in and ask if you thought of including a Canadian news segment with a guest. Happy New Year and many blessings. I will get into Canadian news where it is, big and important. I think a lot of the Justin Trudeau stuff is very big, of course.
Look at this fan.
I would refrain from a scheduled commitment. Like I do a Canadian segment at this time every time. I wouldn't go quite that rigid, but yeah, if there are particular Canadian commentators who you would like to see on this show, I'm always open to that too. So send me an email. I'm trying to assemble this team of people I want to work with going forward, and I'm certainly open to Canadian participation because like I said, I don't understand how half your government system works. I'm not that far from Canada. I don't understand Canada. I just do my best. But yeah, if you have thoughts about who would be good to include in those conversations, I'm certainly open to it, and you can send me an email. And thanks for supporting the show. Knuckle Hunky Buck says, if you do get a Canadian correspondent, you would have to call him your Canuckle. I'll have to work on my pronunciation. Thank you, sir. Purpose of the Ages also says, do we all need to shout, I am not suicidal? Listen, if I suicide, that's the Raju Mohan phrasing. He says, if that happens to me, it's a conspiracy. I love my family, God, and country enough to live and support them forever. Also says, I assume the people I've hired are intelligent. Lately, I've entertained the thought that these people are actually retarded, and I should accept the reality that most people are dumb, especially women. Maybe. I guess I should have clarified. Is this an argument about men only, or are women included? Yeah, well, obviously suicide's a real issue, as I've discussed. Like, I have a personal connection to that. I know many of you out in the audience do. I don't view every suicide as inherently suspicious. Way too many people commit suicide. Way too many veterans or members of our military commit suicide. And so I can totally see that happening in this case. But usually, well, I don't know if I can even say usually, but people I know who have a connection to suicide, myself included, usually there is some kind of warning sign. And I could sit here and talk about warning signs or areas of concern prior to my own experience with it. If you ask me what happened in my own experience, was what happened a total surprise? It was not expected in the way that it happened, but there were areas of concern and factors that played into what happened that you look back on, certainly. And I think for a lot of people who have experienced suicide in that way, there are things that they look back on and signs that they saw or things they think about. I don't know what Livelsberger was like or not, but to your point, purpose of the ages, if it happens for someone who has no warning signs, it's totally out of the blue, the family or friends, they have no warning signs that were thought about or seen or anything. I don't think Livelsberger necessarily fits that description, just given his line of work, given what they were saying about his state of mental health, given what we know about his conflict at home potentially. But yeah, I mean, if you're not in that sort of state, maybe it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt to write a statement exactly to the effect you're describing. Jussie Smollett style, I am not suicidal. That's deep on the soundboard in here. Where do I have it? Somewhere. Can I even find it? Oh, there we go.
I am not suicidal.
Yeah, write yourself a formal Jussie Smollett note.
I am not suicidal.
So that if it ever happens, you can affirmatively deny. As far as the assumption that people are intelligent, and I know you're kind of joking, but I want to clarify what I said too. Just because you assume that the people you're talking to are intelligent, I'm not denying that there are not intelligent people in the world, or people who maybe should be mocked, or people who are retarded in the way that Sam Hyde is describing. What I'm talking about is if you want to win public disagreements, if you want to win debates in the way that I think Elon Musk does want to win about this immigration issue or about H-1B visas or whatever else, my point is it is not tactically smart to act as though your opposition is retarded, because it underestimates them. It assumes that they have no connection to the truth when they might. And lastly, as I explained, it denies you an opportunity to critically evaluate your own position in a way that will improve your position. So when I talk about like assuming the intelligence of your opposition, yes, some of it is about like basic assumptions I think are nice to hold about your fellow man. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not saying that's none of it. What I am saying is there's a tactical value to it too. And I think Elon Musk is really missing that, or did in this case. Again, he's a smart guy. It's not like he needs me to tell him how to succeed in this world. He's done quite well. But I think that assuming the intelligence of others instead of dismissing them would have gone a long way in this particular case. Purpose of the ages, thank you. Knuckle Hunky Buck also says, if these drive-by waddings continue, the paper wadding in Los Angeles at UCLA, the LGBLT community will start forming street gangs. We don't want to know the horrors of sizzlers battling the peacocks in the mean streets of San Francisco. Well,
I dare you, fucking bitch.
it would sound something like that, I think. Thank you, Knuckle Hunky Buck. Appreciate your participation and support for the show as always. Oh, one more Esoterica Unbound. Trump's election is supposed to be certified on January 6th, but D.C. is apparently going to be shut down by 3 feet of snow. There's a massive snowstorm in D.C. I saw that. This will be an even darker threat to our democracy than the nor'easter in 2009. Okay. I know you're joking, but let's say that like the weather cancels tomorrow's vote certification. They won't care because it's Trump, but let's say it was like Kamala Harris getting certified. Would there be a serious argument that climate change had the effect of denying the election and climate change was some kind of tool of the election deniers? Is that too far-fetched? I mean, it sounds absurd, but how many layers of absurdity beyond what could possibly be true is that actually? Maybe we'll find out. Kaiser and Gilroy, after hearing Actual Justice Warriors video saga about the mayor of Thornton and the possible corruption of the mayor in Nollins, your former colleague may have been right. Women shouldn't be running anything major. Hey man, we've had our disputes, but I have some questions about that point, no doubt. I don't know. Tiffany Henyard in Thornton, Illinois. That's right. Legendary corrupt super mayor. I actually don't know much about the mayor of New Orleans. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, fair to ask questions, of course. Appreciate your support for the show. Thank you. And we're good on Rumble. We're good on Odyssey. Ooga Booga Lou says, "Go Lions." That is all.
Come on, man.
I haven't even looked at the score, and I'm not going to until after the stream. I'll take that as a bad omen, but I'm not even going to look at the score until the stream is over because my attention is properly focused here. But actually, that is the end of the stream. So my attention will properly go to the football game in just a few short moments. But thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate all you live chatters, live viewers, super chatters, making the live show a success. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to my guest, Sean Fitzgerald, Actual Justice Warrior. Find him on YouTube, Rumble, and elsewhere. The channel is linked, or the channels are linked in the description for you. Thanks to Knuckle Hunky Buck for his super chat assistance. Thanks to producer Tim for his help this evening as well. If you'd like to find more to listen to, check out the podcast page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/podcasts. You'll find not just the video show, but the audio show too, if you prefer podcast audio listening. Anything else show related, mattchristiansenmedia.com is where you find it. mattis.gay if you prefer brevity. I'm back on Sunday and Wednesday nights. Have a great night and a great week, and Happy New Year.